The next concept I want to talk about is how to move around in 3D space. It can be kind of awkward at first, so it's going to require a lot of patience and a lot of practice. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to move around in 3D space using these 4 views. First, we're going to try in this main camera view. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to press and hold down the right mouse button and drag at the same time. And what that does is it allows you to look left and right and up and down as you drag your mouse button around. If I want to pan to the left or pan to the right, what I'll have to do is press and hold down the shift button on my keyboard and the right mouse button at the same time, and then drag my mouse, and that will allow me to pan to the left and to the right. Now if I want to zoom in and out, what I'll use is my middle mouse button, my scroll, and I can scroll in, which allows me to zoom in, and then I can scroll out to zoom out. Now with these other 3 views, the controls work a little bit differently, but they work consistently across all 3 of these orthogonal views. So I'll look at the top view, and if I press and hold down the right mouse button, what it will do, instead of looking left and right, is just pan around. And if I use my scroll button, my scroll in my mouse, and I zoom in and out by rolling the wheel, it will allow me to zoom in and out just like I did with my main camera. If I press and hold down the shift and the right mouse button, it really doesn't do anything. Because remember, we really can't rotate the view in this top, side, and front view. So the thing we have is just press and hold down the right mouse button to pan around, and then zoom in and out with the scroll. And it's the same thing for the side views and for the front view. Now if you have a dual monitor setup, or if you have more than one monitor, you want to run view on the main monitor, and that's the monitor that has the start button on it. That's considered the main monitor. And the reason why is sometimes when you move around in 3D space, view doesn't know how to treat that second monitor, so if you just want to nudge over just a little bit, what ends up happening is you end up nudging over the distance between the 2 monitors, which could be miles or yards depending upon the scale that you're working at. Also, if you find the controls to be a little bit too jerky, you have the camera control center here over in the right panel, which we'll talk about more in later. But there is also a pan control button here, which can allow you to pan very, very finely. And then there's the zoom. What I do is just press and hold the left click on that button and then try to pan around. And then on this one, press and hold the left click to move the camera in and out. And then this middle one allows you to rotate your camera around. And this right one allows you to rotate your camera around an object. And then these other 2 we'll worry about later when we discuss the camera control center. Another way that you can move your camera around in 3D space to get closer to an object or a particular area of your scene is to move the camera itself. So over here on the right side in our layers list, we can select the main camera. And you can see in our 3 views over here, we have the camera selected, and we can use these orthogonal views to manipulate where our camera is at. You can see these 3 beams shooting out from our camera, and that's indicating what our camera sees. So we can really get in close to an object by using these 3 views. And then the final way to really fine-tune the movement of your camera to an exact, precise location is to use the Numeric Stab. So up here we have 3 tabs, and if we select this middle one, while we have the main camera selected, and then over here on the left side we have several buttons, we make sure that it says Position is selected, the very top one. We can specify the exact X, Y, and Z location of where we want our camera to be. So in summary, this is how you move around in 3D space. I recommend definitely getting in as much practice as you can. The more practice you get, the easier it is to move around in 3D space. Lots of people who are first-time view users say that the controls are very awkward. It just takes a little while to get used to it. You just have to practice, 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 and you'll eventually figure out how these controls work, and you can move around 3D space as if you're in a 3D game.